Every accusation is a confession. It's all projection. How many times have you heard that over the last decade? Well, they may be half right, but the other half of the psychology might even be more disturbing. I'm Dr. Marlene Ryle. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner and psychologist with 30 years experience in the field. And you're watching The World on the Couch, where we take the daily news cycle and run it through a psychological lens, because that's the part the news always misses. Trump has accused the Democrats of corruption, all while running the most corrupt administration in American history. He's also been convicted of fraud in New York State, 34 counts of fraud. Trump has accused the Democrats of some weird cabal of pedos, when he is in the Epstein files more than 1 million times. That, my friends, is called projection, and it is a defense mechanism. But as I said at the start, that's only half the story. So let's start with what a defense mechanism is. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, coined the term defense mechanisms, but it was his daughter Anna who developed the theory in her seminal work, The Ego and the Mechanisms of Defense, in 1936. This theory has become central to the whole field of psychoanalysis, and it has been thoroughly validated by peer-reviewed research. Now, we all have impulses, feelings, desires that are unacceptable, not just to us, but to society at large. So our mind defends us against the conscious awareness of those impulses by using a set of unconscious strategies to protect itself. Those are the mechanisms of defense. Some are very primitive and some are very sophisticated. And we're going to talk about two different ones today. We're going to talk about projection and one called reaction formation. Now keep in mind, because these are largely unconscious, these are not deliberate lies or hypocrisy or even political posturing. This is unconscious behaviors. So let's get into it. Projection is a way of relocating that unacceptable impulse to somewhere outside of yourself. I'm not a criminal, you're a criminal. I'm not corrupt, you're corrupt. It's like the husband who's philandering, who constantly is suspicious that his wife is cheating on him. Again, this is largely unconscious, but we've seen it be conscious in certain people and certain political figures who we have to say to ourselves, how can they not know that they're lying? Or how can they not know that they're pushing it away like that? So in part they do, but in part they don't. And the research shows that in people with narcissistic personality disorder, projection is one of the central defense mechanisms that they employ. Now, that's only half the story, though. There's another defense mechanism at work, and it really is in MAGA in particular, and it works very differently, and it's called reaction formation. Now, where projection might say, I don't feel this way, you feel this way. Reaction formation says, I don't feel this way. I feel the opposite of this. In fact, I feel it so intensely, so deeply, that I'm going to shout that I don't feel this way from the rooftops, and I'm going to try to prevent everyone else from feeling this way forever, for all time. It's not just a denial, it's a 180-degree ferocity of opposing that impulse. And it actually becomes part of their identity. And there's actually quite a large political movement for whom that is their identity. Now, the diagnostic signature of the use of this defense mechanism is exactly in its intensity, in its ferocity, in its rigidity, and also in the fact that it's a very disproportionate response. That is a signature of unconscious process right there. The unconscious knows no time. It doesn't really know how to moderate its responses. It is super intense, as if this thing happened yesterday. Now, this isn't just speculation on my part. There is some literature to back this up, and I'll talk about just a couple things. So in 1996, Adams, Wright, and Lohr did a landmark study, and what they did was they showed same-sex erotic material to a bunch of different men, some of whom ranked high on scales that measure homophobia. And when they looked through these results, they discovered that it was only the homophobic men They scaled the highest on measures of physiological arousal when exposed to same-sex erotic material. Subsequent researchers looked at that and said, this is reaction formation, like in a nutshell. It's this attraction to same-sex partners converted to its opposite, homophobia. In 2024, Trends in Psychology examined right-wing authoritarianism and social dominance orientation, which are two core, central features of the MAGA ideological profile. They noticed that these two orientations predicted a higher tolerance of those child abuse myths that either minimize, deny, or outright prevent abusers from being held accountable. In fact, there is a documented pattern of those institutions and individuals having a higher tolerance for those child SA myths that actually stop them from them becoming accountable for their illegal and cruel behaviors. Now, this is the signature of reaction formation. It's like this real outrage, but it's the outrage that's doing this heavy psychological lift of preventing the person whose beliefs are so unacceptable. They want to prevent them from breaking out and breaking through into conscious awareness. But why does this matter? Why isn't it enough to just say, these are hypocrites and move on? We've got to understand the mechanisms that drive these behaviors, because then we can actually predict the response. Now, where projection is accusatory, points outwards, they're the predators, not me. Reaction formation is more performative. It becomes somebody's identity. I am the protector of women. Didn't we hear someone say, I protect women? The person that was actually accused of sexual assaults dozens of times, who was found liable for rape. I am the protector of women. So that is, a huge distinction, that projection can have some conscious awareness, but reaction formation really doesn't. And keep in mind, again, it's that intensity that really is the tell. So one more thing before I wrap this up is that Aaron Parnas reported that at a rally or meeting today, Donald Trump argued that presidential candidates should take cognitive exams, warning voters about the risks of electing someone unfit for office. He said, you get a guy who gets in there, he's got a good line of crap, and he gets in and all of a sudden you're stuck with a man who's a moron. Now, is this projection or reaction formation? Not having heard how he said it, I think it's important for us to take a look at how he behaves on this issue in the future, because if he becomes a crusader for getting all presidents to take cognitive tests, this may not be a projection on his part. It could be reaction formation. Thanks for watching The World on the Couch. In future episodes, we're going to continue to pull on this thread, looking at world events, political figures through a psychological lens. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I hope this episode will lead you to contemplate a little bit and maybe have discussions with your friends. Before I go, I just want to thank Aiden of Aided by Aiden. He's an amazingly intelligent Gen Z aficionado of all things YouTube, and this channel and this episode would never have been possible without him. So thanks so much. You're wonderful, Aiden, and I really appreciate everything you do. Jazz hands.